news comes first. News Channel 8 at 11 starts now.
You are now being ordered to vacate the street.
Clashes on the streets of Portland. Officers break out the pepper spray as crowds swarm a downtown bank.
A cop decided that was the moment to mace me.
Tonight, the unforgettable images and the fallout for police and protesters after Occupy outrage.
Good evening. We start with those clashes just feet away from Pioneer Courthouse Square.
We have team coverage tonight. Reggie Akey looks at the impact protests are having on the police bureau's response times. Mark Hanrahan has more on why today was so crucial for the Occupy movement. But we begin with the night team's Mike Benner. He was right in the middle of the melee this afternoon. Mike?
Yeah, it certainly was, Joe. It all went down at Chase Bank right here at 6th and Yamhill. All was quiet at this late hour. In fact, the only evidence of all the chaos this afternoon is the sign up there in the window and this lone water bottle right down here on the ground. But tell you what, this was arguably the most heated clash between police and protesters in the last 6 weeks, and it all involved the use of pepper spray.
You may as well call it the calm before the storm, and I use the term calm loosely. Just before 4 o'clock this afternoon, protesters took over the Chase Bank branch at 6th and Yamhill.
Occupy until it's over!
Dozens were on the street, others were inside, occupying the small area between the revolving door and main door.
Occupy until it's over!
Unbeknownst to occupiers, police were gathering in the back of the bank, planning their next move. But before that could happen, action on the street. Mounted police moved in, and they were followed by a few dozen officers in riot gear. And it sure didn't take long for things to escalate. Just listen to my reaction as we broadcasted live during your 4 o'clock news.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Something's just getting violent here. I'm sorry, I almost fell down.
This was the scene as police tried to clear the sidewalk in front of Chase Bank. And when protesters refused to comply, officers turned to non-lethal force and began pepper spraying rowdy protesters. We caught some of it from Sky 8, while an Oregonian photographer snapped this photo on the ground.
They were trying to take the street back, and I noticed that there was a lot of commotion, and I realized that a couple people were being arrested.
Dane Blankinger was one of the several protesters who took some pepper spray to the face.
So it really goes to show you that if you do try to actually do something in certain ways, you will be brutalized by police.
And while some occupiers thought police used excessive force, a spokesman for the Bureau thought otherwise.
People were engaged in this pushing match, basically, with police, and I know they made contact with the horse, and there was obviously, some tension there.
A tension that seemed to ease as darkness fell and protesters dispersed, bringing to an end one of the most confrontational days this movement has seen.
And back out here live, this wild day resulted in 48 arrests, a lot of which were made right here at Chase Bank at 6th and Main. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Mike. The protest began this morning as demonstrators made their way to the Steel Bridge, hoping to occupy it. Sky 8 captured the moment the crowd of several hundred came face to face with police who had been in place for a couple of hours. There was no confrontation, but a small group sat down in the middle of the road and were arrested. 25 people were taken into custody and cited for disorderly conduct. The group We Are Oregon organized the rally at the Steel Bridge to send a message.
The bridge is structurally deficient, and Congress is failing to put people back to work, even though we've got crumbling infrastructure that folks could be employed fixing.
Demonstrators eventually took the lower deck of the Steel Bridge across the Willamette and onto the waterfront. This afternoon's events also caused major headaches for commuters using TriMet. There were delays on both bus lines and MAX lines through the peak of rush hour due to delays blamed on the downtown crowds. TriMet says it tried to balance safety with the increased demand for the evening commute.
An alleged rape victim waited hours for police to respond because officers were dealing with Occupy Portland. Police Chief Mike Reese broke that news live on our air this afternoon. He was speaking to the night team's Reggie Akey, who continues our team coverage now live from the square. Reggie?
Joe, just moments before police stunned some of the crowd with pepper spray, Police Chief Mike Reese was in our studio and stunned a lot of our viewers with words that he said during an interview. Now, I was asking him during KGW's Your 4 O'Clock News if he thought that Occupy Portland was distracting his police force from the other duties they're usually a part of. You'll want to hear his full answer.
If you remain in the street, you are subject to arrest.
Occupy Portland isn't just distracting police and running overtime bills well north of $750,000. It's stopping officers from responding to victims of serious crime. That's the word tonight from Police Chief Mike Reese.
We are reducing our patrol response. Many days, like today, we're taking emergency calls only for service. For example, we had a rape victim stand by for 3 hours until we could get an officer to take a report. And that makes all of us very sad.
For 3 hours?
3 hours.
And that's directly related because there wasn't enough staff because they've been doing other things with Occupy Portland?
Correct.
I say that the blame lies squarely on the police's decisions.
The interview with the chief, live on KGW's Your 4 O'Clock News, quickly traveled through social media and onto the streets. We asked several Occupy participants what they made of the chief's charge. This answer was typical.
My response to that is because the Portland Police Bureau is making bad decisions about where they allocate their time and people, they are not responding to things in time. It is certainly not because of Occupy Portland.
I'm still ringing in my ear, a rape victim waiting 3 hours to get a response. It does seem as if something needs to change in order to facilitate just the regular everyday crime that's happening in the city. How is that going to happen?
Well, again, we have to staff up for these events, particularly ones like today where we don't know where the people are going, they haven't gotten a permit. We're really very reactive in these situations, so we have to have a large staff of officers on duty to facilitate everyone's safety in the downtown area.
Now, we are probably like a lot of you watching right now, wanting to know more information about this specific rape case that Police Chief Mike Reese was talking about. Where was it? What were the circumstances? And why did it take so long to get out there? Of course, he had to run out of the studio very quickly because there was chaos at the time out here on the bricks. We're hoping to follow up and get some more answers tomorrow. Reporting live downtown, I'm Reggie Aki. Now back to you.
Thank you, Reggie. A News Channel 8 photojournalist takes us through exactly what it feels like to get pepper sprayed. John Gudgel was caught in the middle of the melee when officers fired the pepper spray. You can see him here turning and leaving after getting sprayed. He says the effects of the spray are immediate and intense.
And immediately your eyes just shut and you feel them watering up and your nose starts gushing out and you're incapacitated. You know, you can't do anything because you can't see. You could try to open your eyes for, a split second, but that's not going anywhere.
John was feeling better a short time later and is back on the job tonight.
Today was considered a critical day in the Occupy Portland movement. It not only brought out hundreds of supporters, but helped them galvanize their message. The Night Team's Mark Hanrahan spoke with several of them, and he's live tonight at Waterfront Park. Mark?
Joe, we spoke to everyone from a retired teacher to a city worker. Their specific reasons for coming out today may vary somewhat, but they have so far managed to maintain momentum for their movement.
As the Occupy Wall Street movement hits the 2-month mark, hundreds of its supporters gathered at Portland's waterfront, among them the unemployed, concerned citizens, and union workers like Wesley Buckles.
It's important because we are in a jobs crisis right now.
He's a city worker and says looming layoffs compelled him to come out in support of today's rally. Retired teacher Shane Cummings says she's here because her home's in foreclosure.
I have a little tiny place and I can't keep hold of it.
Amanda Green fears government no longer works for her.
I feel my voice is not being heard because the lobbyists control the government.
And Heather Klein says Washington has lost its way.
Our country is not run by the people anymore.
When it comes to the economy, everybody's got a story to tell.
Portland State sociology professor Randy Blazak says today's N17 march against banks shows the Occupy movement is still evolving.
We've gone now from this broad issue about corporate greed, and we started focusing. Yesterday we saw an issue at Portland State with college tuition, and today really the focus became about the banks.
Where the movement goes next remains to be seen, but Blazak says scenes like the one that played out today will likely keep the momentum alive.
If you want to really excite people, those images of people being pepper sprayed are things that are going to keep this issue on the front burner, or else it just becomes another of the many stories that we have in the news.
Blazak says in some ways by not going through the normal process of forming a political party or perhaps a nonprofit, but by maintaining, or by staying, I should say, unpredictable, he says the Occupy movement has managed to stay in the spotlight. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark. And there was at least one small child in all of today's chaos. A Portland Mercury photographer snapped this picture of a young boy being held by a man. We're told this happened after some of the protesters were pepper sprayed. The man walked right up to the front line of police and sat down, holding the toddler in his arms. Log on to kgw.com for even more on today's demonstrations, including raw footage of today's arrest inside a Wells Fargo bank. You can also let us know how you feel about the continued Occupy movement.
Also tonight, skiers are getting ready for a big opening. Timberline opens for the winter ski season tomorrow. Skiers will get first crack at a foot of fresh snow from the past few days. From Timberline to the Valley is more wet weather on tap for the weekend. Chief Meteorologist Matt Zavino tracking it all for us tonight. Matt?
It is, Joe, and this is going to be a soft opening, they're saying, because they're only going to have parts of the mountain open. It's also going to be soft because it's going to be powdery. We've got really good quality snow coming to the Cascades right now, and lots of it. Let me show you the Doppler at this hour. You can see there are plenty of showers rolling into the Cascades right now. We will stop the radar and we'll zoom in on the mountain so we can get a closer look at the snow that's happening up there. But it is some fairly intense snowfall up at Mount Hood, and some fairly intense rainfall in the valley right now. But let's talk about the mountain for the moment. We have at Timberline now 6 inches new with 33-inch base. Meadows at 10 inches new with a 26-inch base. Ski Bowl still building its base, but this will be a good couple of days for Ski Bowl and Mount Bachelor, which need the snow, and Whistler is already opening too. So Timberline tomorrow, Mount Hood Meadows on Saturday. It's an early start to the season. They love getting open before Thanksgiving, as do the skiers and boarders love having them open. And there's a lot more snow on the way before we get to Thanksgiving Day. We'll show you that in a bit. Back to you.
Thank you, Matt. Portland's former parking manager is now facing federal charges. It's a story you'll see in tomorrow's Oregonian. Investigators say Ellis McCoy took bribes totaling more than $120,000 plus gifts and travel from the Florida company that supplies Portland's parking meters. McCoy denied the charges but resigned his post in September. For more on the story, pick up a copy of tomorrow's Oregonian.
There's more on the way from the night team. A mad scramble on a highway when a car flips and a dog makes a break for it.
The new way shoppers can help small businesses and save cash on Black Friday.
Getting ready for Grimm. Tonight we speak to one of the stars about why she's wowed by our pet-friendly city.
As we head to break, a look at some of the incredible images from our news partner at the Oregonian showing today's Occupy confrontation downtown.
A little dog meant big trouble for police on a Tempe, Arizona highway. The dog got free after a rollover accident and took off. You can see the dog running along the highway as traffic crept along. We had something like this similar happen here recently. Officers eventually cornered the dog near the median. He was returned to the dog's owner. She was not seriously hurt in the crash.
Oh, glad he's okay. Black Friday shoppers will have a new way to support local Portland businesses and save a little green. It's an event called Little Boxes. Next Friday, shoppers who buy something at one participating business can take their receipt, show it at a second business, and get 10% off there. Local stores hope it will help funnel customers away from big box stores to the little boxes. Find out all the details and which stores are participating by logging on to kgw.com and clicking on news links. We invite you to join at News Channel 8 for the annual Christmas tree lighting on Black Friday, November 25th. Russ and Brenda will be your hosts. If you can't make it downtown, you can watch it live right here on KGW News Channel 8 during our 6 o'clock news.
We are getting a sneak peek at tomorrow night's Grimm.
What are you thinking?
No, I'm just wondering why certain people are attracted to each other.
That's all about chemistry.
This week, Detective Nick Burkhart and his werewolf sidekick track a killer behind a string of female deaths. Bitsy Tulloch plays Nick's girlfriend. She appeared tonight on Live at 7. Tulloch says living in Portland's a lot of fun, especially since the city is so pet-friendly.
And it's one of the dog-friendliest cities in the country. I love that I can go into Rite Aid and go get a prescription or something, and they're like, would you like a treat? I'm like, yeah, that's so nice. Yeah.
You can watch Grimm tomorrow night and every Friday night at 9 right here on News Channel 8.
They love everything about us. They love Portland, don't they?
Hope they love snow in the mountains.
I hope they like rain.
I hope they love rainy, cold nights for a long, long time.
Days.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got plenty of that coming our way. And we will take you into the Thanksgiving holiday. A lot of people will be hitting the road. Let's check out the ski situation and the snow situation in the Cascades and in the Coast Range too, because the Coast Range getting snow tonight down to about 2,000 feet and headed towards 1,000 feet by morning. Well, that's where the snow level will be by tomorrow. Now at that elevation, Brief accumulation melting away, but at 2,000 feet, you'll get 2 to say 5 inches. Up at 4,000 to 6,000 feet, that's where we get that 10 to 20 inches of snow. Bodes well for the skiers, as we know. 3 to 6 on Saturday as the snow begins to wind down. Snow level begins to climb on Sunday. There's no snow there. Yay, a dry day.